I wrote something that I'm proud of having written. I just wanted to show it to you. I'm not shocked the backlash against Sony has been severe. This is America. For better or worse, Americans love owning things. It's part of the national character. We like property control, resale, collection, shelves, boxes, discs, tools, repairs, tinkering, and the feeling that when we buy something, it's actually ours. Sony's decision sends the opposite message. It says, the games remain ours even after we sell them to you. Removing the option to buy physical is going to strike a lot of people as a bridge too far. No ownership, no resale, no shelf, no physical backup, no freedom, just a license tied to an account and a storefront. That's not progress, that's corporate control. In a hyper capitalist country like America, Sony somehow managed to make a business decision that feels anti consumer and anti ownership in one of the worst possible ways. People love owning stuff, people love having options. People do not like being told that the future is renting permission from a corporation forever. Of course, the backlash is fierce. Sony is just going to have to get used to the fact that people still love owning things. And GTA 6 pre-orders aren't breaking records like everybody thought. In fact, there's now a trend on Twitter where people are canceling their GTA pre-orders, which is just hilarious. I mean, it's got to be a bloodbath, at Sony's next earnings hearing and everything. And I'm all here for it and everything. I love what I'm about to see and everything. And to the idiots who came into my channel to defend this crap, I mean, all I can say is that, I get it. I get why you said what you said and everything about, us wanting this with extra steps, but it's a difference of priorities. And, this is a free nation and everything, and some of us just choose physical over and over and over again for a reason and everything. We haven't adapted to this whole landscape of, having to, fully adapted at least to this landscape of having to just, download something on the internet and everything and have that be the only version of it that we have for, a very particular reason. We care about retaining value and money and the fact that, we can trade our games in or to a GameStop, or we can go on eBay and sell them ourselves and get some of the money that we spent investing in them or buying them really back. Sometimes, in fact, they turn into investments that balloon in price and everything because of the fact that, the company that made them went out of business. Like, I own a copy of Lunar 2, the physical disc for it, and everything for the Sega CD, and it's ballooned to $300 to $500. I mean, it's insane what's happened to the price of that game in particular and everything. It's absolutely crazy what people will spend and pay for it on eBay and everything. And this is the reason why I ended up, like when I go out and buy a game on these days, if there's an option to buy physical, I'm always using the physical rather than, something else. And contrary to that, like, I may be not going into a physical store to order things and ordering them directly from Square Enix's store directly, but in a way it's because I want all the money that I spent on this to flow to Square Enix themselves and such, and to cut out any middlemen in this process and everything. But, this has been my purchases over the last year or so with them, a couple of years with respect to them and the games that I've bought over the last couple of years, and it may not be a lot and everything. I've got other hobbies that fill in the time between, releases and everything, but, this is what I've bought over the past couple of, so you can see, and you may be able to understand if this was your kind of taste in games, that you may feel a little bit left out in the cold by Sony. Sony just isn't catering to people who have this kind of taste in video games. They're not doing very much to keep us loyal to their camp and everything, and it's become evident. It's been felt very deeply. I feel neglected by Sony, who is now trying to dangle, Grand Theft Auto 5, like 6 in front of my face and Wolverine and everything, and I don't even feel tempted. I know those are big, huge franchises and everything, and I remember having some fun with the original Grand Theft Auto and everything, but, it's just, it hasn't been a thing for me in such a long time that I've kind of, the addiction and the spell it had over me has been broken, and I'm not really even all that tempted by it and everything. I obviously was attempted enough by the Adventures of Elliot, despite not being an ARPG fanboy, to go out and give it a spin anyways, and everything, because I just, it looked fun, despite the fact that it wasn't, what I am used to and everything. So, I don't usually like ARPGs. I mean, I did seed Breath of the Wild for a while when it leaked on Torrent Leech, but because it was going to give me a bunch of credit for doing it, and that's how I got my ratio up and everything. But I'm just not really a fan of these ARPGs, and so Breath of the Wild and those games were not for me. I mean, games like Octopath Traveler Zero are the games that were for somebody like me. Anyways, Sony has, I'll admit that Sony has, like, these games also launch on the PlayStation, but they're not exclusive to it, and if I prefer to play things on either my Switch or my PC. Why am I going to go out and plug the fucking, the PlayStation in to play these versions on that when I have to go through all the hassle of hooking it up to the TV and everything and running a controller and everything and all that and everything. I ordered, Final Fantasy Resonance almost like within a couple of hours after Square Enix announced it and everything, and it was a way ultimately of saying, oh my god, you heard me when I said, that I didn't like the fact that Final Fantasy had become an ARPG. I felt seen by them, and this was after years and years of not feeling seen by Sony, of feeling neglected by them.